know, strapped to a chair and everything. Eyelids are always present. So
unless you're doing a character that doesn't have them. I don't know too many. Do you guys know?
I do. Ryuk from Death Note.
Oh yeah.
And he also doesn't have eyes that look at you. But, you know, that's a special example. So yeah, those kind of things you guys think about. And back on the materials that these are made out of too.
Yeah, the teeth can be made out of clay. Sometimes you can go to a taxidermy place and buy a taxidermy jaw set. You can sew a tongue out of just fleece. You can also cast it out of like a foam material, or you can use latex for the foam.
I use
tongue, not foam.
Yeah, felt for like the gums and fleece for the tongue. So there's a lot of additional things that's going to be in your
So
costume.
you want to consider like what's the nose going to be made out of? Like you can make it out of silicone, which makes it feel fleshy and soft, and it has that right texture.
Pink one is silicone.
Yeah, or you can make it out of clay and paint it and give it the right texture, but it'll be hard and it won't feel like it's a real nose.
But it will look just great.
You can also make horns out of like casted material, or you can sculpt it out of clay and bake it in the oven.
Horns you want to consider making as light as possible. Groudon here, his spikes are actually pieces of foam. They're squishy. You have to go up and punch it. Squishy. And very, very soft, so he's extra huggable. He's not going to hurt anybody or himself. And they're extremely lightweight again.
Then you can also make hooves by doing...
This is also, I think, casted.
Yeah, I think this is more casted stuff.
Claws, the same way. You can buy plastic claws at Hobby Lobby.
Plastic claws.
Plastic claws are suggested, you know, because they're really lightweight.
And cheap.
And try to dull them so you don't scratch anybody. Some of them coming out of the mold can be very sharp. And you can also just make your own out of sculpted clay.
One thing that'll bring a costume to life is painting. Look at the Velociraptor. In the very first picture, it's very dull, and you'll notice the vision screen right here, which is where they see out of, it's a black mesh. But when they airbrushed it, you don't see it anymore. Well,
but
you don't notice it.
Cleverly hidden into the design. That's all about the costume design at the very beginning stage. Something to consider. They incorporated it into the markings of the neck. It wasn't originally there in the design, but it was something they had to do in order to get the best overall look. And to be able to see and enjoy wearing the costume in a sense.
It really brings the character to life. You can notice all the really nice shading that are in the recesses to give the model more...
Depth.
Not the model, sorry. I'm very used to this. To give the character more depth and make it feel more alive, which is what you want. Yes. Performance and safety. This is kind of hopefully generic stuff that everybody uses.
Yeah. It's a good idea to be in character, especially when you're at a convention like this, because that's what it's mostly all about. Is you spend all this time building this character to be real. Now you have to make it real. You have to make it feel real.
Otherwise, you're just a statue or a very, very drugged thing, whatever you're supposed to be.
A lot of times, a great performance can make up for, maybe not the best craftsmanship in the world.
Because they'll remember the performance and they'll remember your costume, and they'll think your costume is a lot better because you made it alive. They really enjoyed the performance you gave.
So it's a good idea to just practice performing in it. Not only just for the characterization, but also to figure out your limitations in costume.
So you need to know how far you can bend down, how big of the movements you need to make people understand what you're trying to tell them.
Whether or not it's a good idea to take stairs or the elevator.
That too. Most of the time you'll be taking the elevator.
Yes, please. If when in doubt, take the elevator.
Don't worry yourself.
And taking lots of breaks. Keeping cool is essential. You do not want to have heat exhaustion, no overflow. Yeah, you got your bottom water. Drink fluids.
Please do. You sweat a lot, you lose a lot of that. You want to replace it so you don't pass out from dehydration. They'll cut you right out of the costume you just made if you pass out.
Oh yeah, that's kind of fun. You need some sort of handler or spotter, especially in crazy suits like Groudon here. She'd never be able to make it on her own.
You noticed her on stage helping her up and off if you guys went to the cosplay contest?
Yeah, I had to be there every step of the way because her vision is limited, her movement is a little bit limited. I got to make sure she's okay, making sure, are you healthy, do you need water, do you need a break? It's all about making sure that the costumer gets what they need when they need it. Make sure that you have enough space in the hallway so people aren't tripping over it. It's just a big whole thing about just safety.
You'll also want to have a rest and changing area. If you change in the middle of a hallway, you might be like a unitard, or you might just
Be in
embarrass
your
yourself.
underwear.
Yeah, that too.
Exactly.
You also don't want to traumatize small children when you take off your head, do it somewhere outside.
It's a professional mascot's creed.
Yeah.
You don't take your head off in public. You do that in private. Bathrooms are a great place to do that. If you have a hotel room, even better.
Don't perform while sick. You don't want to be at 100 degrees body temperature and then go to like 106. Not good things will happen.
Groudon figured this out yesterday. She pushed herself a little bit too hard after the cosplay contest, and she had woke up with headaches, and she was really feeling awful. So we wanted to make sure that she had plenty of time to rest and recuperate for this event, which is why she left pretty early on the presentation, because she knows now, don't perform while you're starting to feel sick, when you're starting to feel like you're at your limit. Oh no, I can keep going.
Just stop.
Save yourself the trouble, because you'll learn one way or the other that that's not a good
Either
idea.
by ending up in the hospital or feeling really bad the next day.
Yes.
Also, know the rules for the convention. Like, don't have something extending a foot off your body because you want to be able to wear what you just built. And
Yes.
Show
Exactly.
off what you just did.
Paint on Toronto with no metal parts, for example.
Though you always want to check because it changes from year to year sometimes.
And convention to convention.
Traveling in care, obviously store it properly, like in a plastic bin, hopefully like one that has a latch instead of like the top one. The Rubbermaid bins, because those
Right.
pop off really easily.
Yeah, keep it in a nice place. You want to make sure it stays nice and clean, especially when you get out of the suit. You're sweated into it. You want to make sure that you can breeze it, you can spot clean it.
You can cold wash Umbreon's
Fur?
suits. Yeah, this fur.
Use woolite, use cold
It's
water,
It's a cold water.
cold water detergent.
That's the word.
Big number one no-no. Remember how we said that fur was made out of plastic? Don't put it in the dryer.
It'll melt.
Do not put it in the dryer.
Yeah.
Do not put it in the dryer. I don't care if it's all liquid. Just don't.
Put it on a metal rack or bins or something with airflow underneath it.
And put a fan on it, and you make sure that thing is nice and dry. You have a slicker brush, you brush that thing. You brush it after each wear that you've done it. Yes, Carl?
With the melting part, stay away from fire.
Stay away from fire.
No fire.
There was some really horror story about some fursuit or getting caught on fire at some
Also, know
convention in Europe, I think.
When shipping and traveling, look up all the airline restrictions where you can ship it to a hotel or a FedEx ahead of time, but also make sure that the hotel will pick it up or if there's a FedEx in the area.
Traveling is very difficult with very large suits, so if you're doing airline, it's a lot difficult to do that way. You have to make sure you really look into it. Traveling in the car, don't leave it in a hot car. Same thing as leaving it in a hot oven or a dryer.
I had a thermometer that I left in my car. It went to 140 degrees and broke because it kept going. But then again, I had a black leather car. But point being, it gets really hot.
So make sure it's stored properly in the car, stored properly in your hotel. It is shipped properly. When you ship it in, you're risking a lot sending it to the mail. You want to make sure that you secure it as much as possible in that box.
Yeah. And it's Q&A time. We kind of
It
talked
is.
for a while, so we have probably 4 or 5 minutes because we gotta unpack everything. We've got some helpers out here, so we should.
Yes, we are going to open the floor for questions now.
Anyone got questions? All the way
Then
to the
back first.
Going by the don't put it in the dryer, by how many you were referencing it, I have to ask, was that from personal experience?
Luckily, there's been plenty of other people
There's
who have
lots
made
of
a
horror
mistake.
stories on the internet.
Okay.
We just read about them and go, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
When you're going to create a bodysuit, for example, for somebody else, make sure that they send you a duct tape dummy. Therefore, it's like having them in person. I created this suit for Rec. It was the first one that I've ever done for somebody else.
Unless you're a professional seamstress, it's probably the best way to go because then you know how
Make
to
sure
tell
you
other
know
people.
how it
if-
fits.
Yeah.
Heads are a little bit different. You have to usually get their measurements, and you kind of can determine the best way you want to go about that. For example, my foam head guy over there, his head is a little smaller than my head.
He has a huge Adam's apple.
And ears, which need to be sawed off because the ears are hard on that and they're flexible in real life. Yeah.
You talk about washing the costumes, but is the fabric glued to the foam?
Oh, yes.
Yes. You can hand wash the head. Be very, very careful because the colors from the eyes might bleed into the fabric, or the fabric from other fur might bleed into the other fur.
So you just like
If
spray
you're
it
gonna wash
with
it, it's a good
water?
idea
so
to
it's-
remove
spot clean
eyes. Yeah, remove the parts that you know cannot get wet. Hot glue can get wet because it's like a rubbery plastic material. It's waterproof for the most part. Some people have had experience with hot glue losing a little bit of its adhesiveness when it gets wet when attaching foam and fur. But in general, unless you're submersing it and scrubbing it, you should not have a problem with the hot glue giving you any issue. And if so, if it starts peeling back, you just glue it back in place.
It's usually the best idea just to spot clean it with like Febreze or like a
Teddy bear cleaner is also available for fur fabrics and such.
When you talk about cleaning, you can dry clean.
No.
No,
Well-
a lot of dry cleaners just won't take it because it's handmade and they can't guarantee whether or not the fabrics will, the seams that you sewed will tear.
They use special chemicals in
And it's
dry
not
cleaning.
actually dry cleaning.
Yeah, it's not. It's kind of a fancy term for we use chemicals that you can't have access to, and we clean your stuff for you. It can have different reactions to whatever materials that you use. And like I said, most of them won't take it, and a lot of times at your own risk, you have to sign on a waiver saying, hey, if we mess it up, it's not our fault. And it's a better idea if you want to do that route to try out a little sample and see how the results are. When in doubt, test things.
Use your scraps from wherever you cut to test whether or not the fabric or fur.
And another good point, when you're making fabric patterns, before you get to cutting your expensive fur, if you're not quite sure, especially your first time, or whether or not this pattern is going to work on the head or on your body, use a cheap material like muslin.
Or like a really cheap cloth that's been on sale.
So you can kind of figure out how it moves, how it will look, and if you're like, okay, I'm good with this, then you can transfer it to your real fabric.
We have time probably for one real quick question. Anyone? Did you have one?
Well, actually, I've seen also, you can also get like like rolls of like a real opaque material that you use for making patterns itself. It's really cheap stuff.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that stuff.
butcher paper.
Butcher,
what
it's
it's called.
not even butcher, but yeah, it's like
But
it's
there's
a fabric.
also transfer paper, and there's also pattern making paper.
Pattern making is like the fabric, yeah.
And that works
Get it
just
really
great.
cheap and
It
get
is a
it
little bit
rolls.
more expensive if you're gonna get the nice tracing paper that comes like packaged at the fabric store versus like butcher paper, for example.
Right, but you need to like move it around and shape
Oh
it.
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's gonna be
There's a lot.
more
That's a lot more versatile.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have to start cleaning up if they want to sell.
Yeah, but you're
If you
welcome
want to talk to us,
talk to us.
we can do it out in the hallway.
Thank you.
Giving Noli a hard time for not running.
Oh yeah, and everything listed on that handout will tell you all the rest about filling in the blanks that you need to know. I highlighted it, so I can out.
Thank you.